Good evening, Californios. It's March 29th, 2022. This is Season 2, podcast number 9, and we are Red Star Report. This is Hal G. Lohr with Voices for the California Nation. This week, with springtime in the air and Russian forces in Ukraine beginning to lose ground to the tune of overwhelming global criticism, a small piece of information crosses my desk here at Red Star Report, which completes this week's California independence movement journey as we go from the sublime to the ridiculous to the incredibly stupid. I know it's going to be a great relief to all of you Red Star rebels out there to know that the thank God now defunct YesCalifornia's useful Russian idiot and fearless leader, Louis Marinelli, has tweeted to let us all know that on all of our behalfs, the Cal Exit Congress not only supports Russian efforts to denazify Ukraine and set up an independent fascist puppet state in Donbass, but also wants us all to know that, quote, the issue surrounding the continued operation of the embassy of the independent California Republic in Moscow has been settled, end quote. And that the California embassy in Moscow, that nobody in the actual California independence movement actually has any contact with or control over or interest in, shall remain open like a glorious festering wound. Because with everything evil going on in that part of the world, God forbid YesCalifornia miss a chance to do another unforced error. Goody. Can I make it easy for you? The people and organizations of the California independence movement want nothing to do with you, Vladimir Putin, or Russia. Mic drop. This is Voices for the California Nation. Moving on tonight, we have a new segment of Red Star Rising with Matt Owen. Part 1 of a discussion of the book, Union de las Californias, by Baja California independence activist, author, and well-known journalist, Cuauhtemoc Morgan, for a discussion of Baja California's history and the challenges it faces of decolonization, gentrification, and that starts right now.
Excellent. Hello, everyone. This is Matt Owen, recording Red Star review of Cuauhtemoc Morgan's Unión de las Californias, the Union of the Californias. And so if you would give us a brief introduction to yourself and to maybe why you wrote the book as well.
Yes, thanks for the opportunity, Matt. As you know, I'm a journalist that have been working here and make my professional career in Baja California for more than 20 years. I work as a journalist in the, I think in the main newspapers and magazines. And I own with my wife, Ermelinda, a blog now as Colectivo Pericú, that is a news blog, and also another news sites. But I've been working all my life in the journalism. So the book Union of the Californias is a new book. I have 4 or 5 books before this, but this book I start to read it the last year. So the main goal that I want to project in this book is that the people of Baja California knows why we are living a big gentrification phenomena that we didn't even perceive, but this phenomena is spread all over the peninsula through the great inversions of the richest people of the United States and also California, and they are buying beaches, they are buying residents, they are installing in many colonies that are spread all through the beaches, throughout the beaches, throughout the whole peninsula. So this phenomena starts maybe in the 1990s. So right now we have a population of about 250,000 Americans living here in the peninsula. That's because I decide to write about this phenomena, that is a gentrification phenomena, and explain the historical roots of this phenomena in my book, how did it started, and what we will be facing in the short and long term of time.
So, I understand that your book begins with a discussion of, where the name California was first used, since the Spaniards, colonized us from south, where you're at, to north. Okay,
Yes,
same like they
I
did the
put
Mexican mainland.
yes, I put many topics. That's one. That's because the Americans are calling us just Baja, and the original name of California has its origin. The origin of the word California was used for first time in the history here in Los Cabos. Cabo San Lucas was the first place that received that name and was called Cabo California. And this we have cartographical data that proves that the name California was used for first time in the history in Cabo San Lucas. That's the origin of the name. But with this gentrification phenomena, we are losing many values of our cultural values. One of them, of that values are the name California. The United States people and the British people and the power of the money are just calling Baja. We are not Baja. We are our name is California. Baja California Sur is the name of the state where I live, and the original name of this part of the Mexican Republic is California. The peninsula was the first place in the world that receives that name. And if you see all maps, you can see that the peninsula was identified as California Peninsula, just California Peninsula. But in the actual time, we don't have that name. They call us just Baja. They identify us just as Baja. And Baja is a depreciative adjective, the totally depreciative adjective. We are not Baja. We are Baja California Sur, and I explain in this book why I want to reclaim and to be named again as California. The original California is one of the topics that I put in this book, and I explained it very extended also, and is a part is one of the parts of this book on which I deepen and reflectioning on how we are losing our original values and cultural values. Our cultural values is exploding. It could be vanished with this gentrification phenomena that is together with this phenomena, and also the way that the people of the United States are calling, maybe mainly the inversionists are calling this land just as Baja, and we are California.
Muchísimas gracias. So, meanwhile, as you know, since 1848, Alta California, where I'm at, was annexed by the US. And not only that, but like the peninsula, it was divided into a state and a territory. Okay, you had California state, Nevada territory. Why? Because they wanted to facilitate colonization of the territory, which became Nevada, right? You may recall the same thing happened in the peninsula. They had Baja State, and where you're at was Baja Territory. Why? To facilitate the colonization of the southern part of your peninsula. Okay, so they divided up both Alta and Baja into a state and a territory to facilitate colonization at the expense of the indigenous people. Okay, continuing rather than discontinuing the old Spanish policy of colonization and intensifying it in certain places. Yeah? So, meanwhile, you know, here in Alta, we were annexed in 1848, but that didn't stop the colonizers from taking colonizing interest in the peninsula, did it?
Yes, I think there were very attempts of colonizers from California to annex the peninsula. The first was William Walker. He's a journalist from the United States, a very interesting person. He proclaims the first independence act in La Paz. He wants to be a new country, all the Walt Peninsula and also Sonora. He was trying to annex Sonora and the Baja Peninsula as one country, and they use a flag with two stars and two bars, two red stars and two bars to proclaim the independence of the Baja Peninsula. So there are many attempts from people of California, many expeditions through the history. The second one, I think, was a Frenchman that want to independence Sonora, and also many movements, political movements that push governors of the California governors to make to try to attract the senatorial to push a senatorial resolution so Washington acquires the Walt Peninsula through a buoy how you say to buoy the peninsula. Maybe 2 or 3 governors of California tried to buoy the peninsula and push Washington on that manner to get the support to acquire the Walt Peninsula. So that's the part and the point that began many Black legends that we grow with that the United States wants to buy the peninsula to make a purchase through an agreement with the Mexican government to take possession of the peninsula. I think there are many documents approved that, and also many people that talk about that, but without a support. And I investigate that, and that's many documents I read to write this book, and I found many documents in the history files in the United States, and also history files in Mexico uh, that shows that the United States has an interest to buy the Wall Peninsula. So we have also another topic here in the book, the status of our Gulf of California, that is doesn't have is considered international waters, and we don't know why the Gulf of California are international waters. I see it's a big hole in our constitution, because the Mexican constitution doesn't consider the Gulf of California as a part of Mexican territory. And it's a mystery, a total mystery for me, how this is happening today. It's a big hole in our constitution.
That was Red Star Rising with Matt Owen, with a discussion of the book Union de las Californias by Cuauhtemoc Morgan, Part 2, to debut next week. All right, let's keep this podcast rolling with a new piece of political art video where we find out what happens when we take a recent interview, remove all qualifying statements, and present just a string of conclusions. Gotta say, for our first offering, I don't think you're going to be disappointed. Red Star Report presents Edited to Conclusion, The Lowest Common Factor. Noam Chomsky, edited from a Democracy Now! Interview he gave on March 3rd, 2022, about the current state of American politics.
Even trivial measures that exist everywhere are very hard to implement in this country. Measures like maternity leave, which is everywhere. It's right at Congress right now. The Republican Party is 100% rock solid opposition to this and other measures, including some weak but at least existing measures to mitigate the climate crisis. Even the simplest things are very hard to get through in a country that's been poisoned by right-wing propaganda, by corporate power. Goes way back, but it's expanded enormously in the past 40 years. Bitter class war. That's the meaning of it. What we're left with is a society of atomized people, angry, resentful, lacking organization, faced with concentrated private power, which is working very hard to pursue the bitter class war that has led to the current disastrous situation. The Republican strategy has been successful. Do as much damage as you can to the country, blame it on the Democrats, develop all sorts of fanciful tales about the communist Democrats are doing to your children, to the society, in a country which is subjected to social collapse. As far as fascism is concerned, there are some analysts, very astute and knowledgeable ones, who say we're actually moving towards actual fascism. My own feeling is that I would prefer to call it a kind of proto-fascism, where many of the symptoms of fascism are quite apparent. Resort to violence, the belief that violence is necessary, and we see it in armed militias, who really feel that it's necessary to carry out a coup to save the country. The Republican Party is now taking sophisticated measures to try to ensure that next time around it'll succeed. These are signs of massive social collapse.
That was Noam Chomsky's Edited to Conclusion, the first of a new Red Star Report series to find the real California independence movement message in the U.S. news narrative. Sometimes you need to go beyond the acceptable media message and strip it down to that lowest common factor. Even when that message isn't always what you want to hear, more of these to come. For our final segment tonight, we keep the conversation going as Activism in Action with Shankar Singam brings you part one of an interview with longtime activist and now Long Beach City Council District 7 candidate Carlos Ovalle. Right over to you, Shankar.
Folks, this is California.
Thank you, Hal. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Activism in Action. Today, we have another candidate. Yes, another candidate running for local office. Let's just get right into it and meet him. His name is Carlos Ovalle. Is that correct? How you say your last name, sir?
No, that's correct. You got it. Carlos Ovalle.
Carlos is running for city council in Long Beach. Carlos, why don't you tell us how long you've been living in Long Beach? Where are you from? What's your history here? How did you come to California? What made you want to run for city council?
Well, so I've lived in Long Beach since 1972. I have taken, a couple of breaks here and there for various reasons, but this has always been my home. Again, since 1972, so that's 50 years. And I've lived in the same neighborhood, the Wrigley neighborhood, for that amount of time. Not in the same address, but same neighborhood, same district, same city. I'm an immigrant. I was born and raised in Guatemala, and we came here. My family came here originally in 1968, in time to see the lunar landing on TV, and we sort of traveled back and forth a few times until we settled, and we came here more or less as political refugees. My father was a trade unionist in Guatemala, and as a result of a change of government, and as happens often over there, and he kind of fell on the wrong side of the government, but he was never a person to back down. He stood for his principles. He wasn't a very, he didn't have a formal education. He dropped out of school in the third grade to help in the farm, but he was an autodidact. He devoured every book that fell on him, and he instilled those values in his 5 children. I'm the oldest of the 5. And he said, they can never take away your principles and your education. And that's what all of us live by. You asked about why I'm running for the 7th district. Well, I've always been politically involved. albeit not in terms of local politics. Before this, I was involved in the various solidarity movements with the people of Central America, and a little bit in dealing with issues in the Middle East and elsewhere, Great Britain, even and Ireland, and lots of places. But I became involved in local politics probably 5 years ago, give or take. And one of my first involvements in local politics was with the campaign of a guy by the name of Jared Milrad, who was running against Roberto Uranga. And, he was not a very experienced guy politically. And so he contacted me, and we started talking, and about various issues, mainly issues dealing with the environment and the problems that we suffer over here in Western Long Beach. And I knew all that stuff because I've been an environmentalist for a few decades, and so that gave me a taste, because I saw how well Jared did. He still lost to Roberto Uranga, but in the 2018 elections. But I thought, hey, I can do this. If I can help somebody gain votes, why don't I do it? Because I know all this stuff. It's on the tip of my tongue. I live it. I've been here, much longer than the incumbent, and I think I'm probably more familiar about what goes on here than he is.
That's it. That's interesting. So Alberto Urango, he's one of the current council people there. He's
yes.
part of the Democratic Party, correct?
That's correct.
Now, I know we've all had our affiliations with the Democratic Party. Are you currently looking for support from the Democratic Party, or are you independent? Good.
No,
good.
I've never been a member of the Democratic Party. I have to say that that in various elections, my votes tend to go more towards the Democrats, rarely to Republican issues, but yeah, that's kind of where my votes tend to go, either Democrat or the Green Party or the Peace and Freedom Party.
Yes,
but yeah. So
yeah,
there you go.
We were talking earlier about the other candidates in our area that are running for political parties from council all the way up to state senator, and of the four, none of them are running as Democrats, interestingly enough. So they're everything from Green,
Mm-hmm.
Freedom, because I think a lot of Californians have kind of just had enough of the Democratic Party. So it's refreshing to know that this independent-minded people are coming out and fighting back against them. But Roberto Urango, he is a career Democrat, so he's got a large war chest, I'm sure, to run against you. And our good friend Maria Estrada also ran against Rendon, who's also a known Democrat. And she ran with, I think, less than almost $10,000, maybe 20 at the most, I think she had, to run against Rendon, who had a $100,000 war chest. And she only came a few percentage points away from winning. And that's from her boots on the ground in front of his office, in his face, making everybody know that this person is who's running against for his seat. I was wondering, what is your strategy? What does your war chest look like? Are you looking for donations? How much money do you think Urango is getting into his campaign as far as the finances are concerned?
Yeah, I know that very soon after he launched his campaign, he held a fundraiser. Somebody told me, and I haven't looked at his forms online, but that he had raised upwards of, I think it was $60,000 in his campaign. So this is a few months ago. I'm sure that the war chest has gotten heavier, and but that doesn't concern me, because money doesn't vote; people vote, and I'm inspired by the campaign of Maria Estrada, but other campaigns that have been going on nationally and even locally. locally that prove that if you've got a good grassroots campaign, if people are behind you, then anything is possible. So you mentioned the Democratic Party. Well, I think all of us know that the Democratic Party has, and the Republican Party, basically the establishment parties have been losing adherents for a while now, and people are either declaring themselves independent or nonpartisan, or they've been joining the ranks of the Green Party or other parties. So the Democratic Party is not quite what it used to be. But in terms of just financing, I'll give you a personal experience. A couple of years ago, actually in 2016, Mayor Garcia launched a measure called Measure A. The intention for that measure was to increase our taxes, to put us basically tied with Chicago in terms of sales taxes for major cities. So it was only Long Beach and Chicago that had a 10.25% sales tax.
Oh yeah,
huge tax. And I know a lot of people who are especially small businesses who were very upset at that because people for major purchases were going just a couple of miles to Signal Hill or to Orange County or across to LA. I think there's about 9 different cities that surround us, and all with lower taxes than ours. So, but I wasn't too concerned about that. I was more concerned that taxes and fees and fines are regressive in nature. So in sales taxes, it's mostly the poor working class that end up paying a disproportionate amount of taxes, and so I looked at it that way. I looked at it as I'm going to oppose this because it is a regressive tax. Because it impacts those. It impacts my neighbors and my entire community. And so anyway, that's 2016. The measure passed, and we thought, okay, well, it has a sunset clause, so we know it's going to end. Initially, it was going to start, cutting back in 2023, but then Mayor Garcia decided that he wanted to make it permanent, and it's really interesting because none of the promises that he made for where the funds that were collected initially, they were supposed to accomplish certain things. None of those promises were kept. He didn't accomplish anything with those $60 million a year that were collected. Instead, those $60 million a year went mostly to pay for overtime. And who's
police?
Was the police, yes. And so then he decided to make it permanent, and he invented another set of excuses for what to do. So we decided to fight even harder. A group of us got together and started opposing Measure A, the forever Measure A, and we raised a whopping $900. That was our budget to fight Measure A. Mayor Garcia ended up raising $900,000. So basically, for every dollar we raised, he raised $1,000. So election day came out in 2020. We started seeing the results, and it took 7 weeks for the count to be finalized. Every week, we would get the results from the county recorder's office, and we'd say, okay, we're winning by 100 votes, by 200 votes, by whatever. Some, not a significant amount, out of 50,000 votes, but we were winning all the way until the very last day after 7 weeks. All of a sudden, we lost by 16 votes, which was very disheartening. Ultimately, we asked for a recount, and the county basically kept moving up the goalposts. They said the recount is going to cost you $20,000. We said, oh, geez, how are we going to? Our budget to fight Measure A was only 900. Where are we going to come up with 20,000? But we did a fundraiser, or a few fundraisers actually, and we collected the money. And we gave them a check, and they said, "Oh no, it's not going to cost you 20. It's going to cost you 30.
It shouldn't have cost you a dime.
It should." And then they said, "Oh no, it's not going to cost you 30. Now that you raised 30, it's going to cost you 40." And it kept going up and up and up. We sued them.
Yes,
we actually ended up raising $60,000 to sue the county. We lost. They said it's the county's prerogative to charge you whatever it takes. And it doesn't matter that they published a certain amount. They have the right to raise it without giving you a warning ahead of time. So we lost the recount. We couldn't ask our followers for any more money, and that was that. Now we have the forever tax. If elected to office, that will be one of the first things I do is to figure out a way to rescind that regressive tax.
It seems like you'd have to sue the county for not being able to recount, meaning they don't allow recounts in that county, which is unconstitutional. They're not allowing a recount by having the ability to change the amount owed. They're not allowing a recount, and that's unconstitutional.
Yeah, that's basically what happens. But but I, rather than fighting the behemoth that LA County is, I would rather simply pass another measure in the city and rescind that tax, because nobody likes a super high 10.25% tax forever, especially not the working class. I mean, I would support a huge tax if it was a progressive tax. So all of this goes to show that the main story behind my long explanation was that we got so close to 16 votes away out of 50,000 votes to winning that campaign for just a tiny fraction. And this isn't the only time this has happened, but every election we've been able to accomplish more with less through grassroots.
Thank you, Shankar. That was Activism in Action. Come check us out next week for part 2 of our interview with Long Beach City Council District 7 candidate Carlos Ovalle. Busy, busy, busy. That's Red Star Report for the week of 3/29/22, which actually brings us to an announcement. Normally, Red Star Report records 10 segments over the course of 10 weeks and then takes 2 weeks off to rest, refresh, and get ourselves ready to start the next 10. Over that break, we create new graphics, work with our new content contributors, and line up new guests for interviews. Well, if you haven't noticed, this is Season 2, Episode 9. And unfortunately, Red Star Report has been kind of a victim of our own success. We just have too many interviews lined up to take that 2 weeks off at this time. If we do, we can't fit them all in to our usual format. So, at this point, Red Star Report will postpone our break until at least podcast 12. But let's face it, a podcast like Red Star Report becoming a little too popular with the activist community can only really be called a good problem to have. So, we ask you for your patience, and we here at Red Star Report assure you we will get these interviews out to you as quickly as we can. With that being said, please check out our website at www.redstarreport.com. Subscribe to our Red Star Report YouTube channel. Go to our Red Star Report Facebook page, Twitter, and Instagram. Give us a like. Give us a follow. Because if you want a real California independence movement media group, are you paying attention? It's all about the algorithms. Our thanks to you and all our Red Star Rebels for watching. We are Red Star Report.